When the GoPro Hero 8 came out, they advertised it as being a gimbal killer. Now the GoPro Hero 9 just came out and they're advertising it as having the most advanced stability ever. Now the stability on the 8 was already really smooth, but still having it on the gimbal was still a lot smoother. So today we're going to test the GoPro Hero 9 versus the gimbal. I'm going to be testing a couple of different things, and I'll start with something that I previously tested when I tested the GoPros against each other to see how they compared, just so you can see what the difference is between the GoPro Hero 8 and the 9 handheld. Okay, so this is me trying to hold the camera as level as I can, as I normally would when I'm filming something. Now, when it gets exciting, I think, is when I move it around a bit more. If I move it from side to side, if I'm bouncing it a little bit, that's where it should make the difference. Now the Hero 9 is a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier than the previous versions, and like the GoPro Hero 8 when it came out, it doesn't fit on a lot of gimbals. I have the FIVERR G5 and G6 and it doesn't fit on there. Now when the Hero 8 came out, FIVERR came out with a little adapter so you could use the Hero 8 on there, so I'm pretty sure they're going to have that for the Hero 9, but right now it doesn't fit on a lot of gimbals. It does fit on the Zhiyun Crane M2 that I have. That has no problem using bigger cameras. So I'm going to be using the Zhiyun Crane M2 to do this test. Okay, to see how the Hero 9 does against the gimbal, we'll start with having the 8 on the gimbal and the 9 handheld. And when I say handheld, I'm going to have it on a grip, because previous tests already shown that it's just better to have it on a grip than to have it actually in your hand. You just have a little bit more stability to aim it at things. Now, the settings are set for 4K, wide, and Hypersmooth on, both on the gimbal for the 8 and the 9 handheld. Let's see how it does. Okay, so this is what it looks like when I'm walking. Just walking, turning to the side, turning back, standing still, panning. Okay, let's try some running. Let's try with the settings on the Hero 9 set to boost, and the Hero 8 just still with Hypersmooth on the gimbal, because that's how I would normally use it. So this is me walking. And let's go try for a little run. Now the Hero 9 is actually moving around quite a bit because I can't hold it that steady when I'm actually running. But yeah, curious to see how it does. The Hero 9 has a new setting, which is the horizontal leveling. That only works when you're filming linear, not wide. I've been filming wide up till now. I set the GoPro Hero 8 for linear as well on the gimbal. And yeah, let's see how it performs with the horizontal leveling. So this is me walking, just walking. With the Hero 9 set to horizontal leveling, let's pan to the right, and pan back to the left. Just walking. Now moving the camera left to right, left to right. I think should be fine. All right, let's do some running. Okay, just to see how it does, let's move the camera from left to right. I am really moving the camera a lot now. I'm really shaking it around, moving it up and down now, up and down, up and down, just twisting it left to right. Now I can't see the results just yet, but I'm very curious to find out how the Hero 9 held up against the 8 on the gimbal. Not done testing yet though, because we're gonna see how the Handheld 9 holds up to the 9 on the gimbal. Okay, so this is me walking with the 9 Hypersmooth with boost on the gimbal now. Set to just Hypersmooth. Filming wide in 4K, walking around, just walking. Now, I don't expect there to be much difference here. Let's see how it does when we're running. It's starting to run. And running back. Okay, walking with the 9, horizontal level, and the boost, ultimate settings. Just walking, and starting to run. And running back. Hypersmooth on boost. Filming linear with horizontal leveling. Running at fast speed. Okay, now I can't really tell yet if there's a big difference. I have to see it on the computer, but I'm very curious to find out what it looks like now. But when is a camera a gimbal killer? For me, the Hero 8 wasn't really a gimbal killer because it was still a lot smoother to film with my gimbal. That being said, I'm running with it. If you're walking and filming or standing still and filming, you might actually prefer to just take out a grip and take out your camera instead of having to bring a gimbal with you. And in that case, it would be a gimbal killer. Because yeah, if you don't want to hassle with the gimbal, and even if it is smoother with the gimbal, but if it's not that big of a difference that you would still prefer to just take the camera out with you, then yeah, I guess you could consider it a gimbal killer.
Now looking at the footage, I think the Hero 9 performed really well. The Hypersmooth already keeps the image very stable. When you're walking around, panning around the camera even, it looks really nice. When you start running, it does not compare to the gimbal. It's very shaky, and having a gimbal really looks a lot better. Having the boost on, that already looks a lot like using a gimbal. I think having the boost could actually be a good alternative to having a gimbal. If you don't own a gimbal, or you don't want to take out the gimbal, don't want to bother with it, then I think it already looks decent enough to just use the boost. However, the Hero 9 has horizon leveling, and I think that is a game changer. It looks just as smooth as using the gimbal. I think it looks really amazing. In the footage, you see a lot of shaking, but yeah, that's because I'm really shaking the camera. I'm really moving it around a lot more than I would ever move my camera around while I'm running. So yeah, I think in the rest of the footage, that is where it's not shaking that much, you can tell that it looks just like using a gimbal. So I think in that way, the Hero 9 is a gimbal killer. What I didn't test yet was the footage with the Hero 9 horizon leveling on compared to what I normally use, the Hero 8 with just the Hypersmooth on. So let's look at how that looks. Now, I didn't film the same area for this footage, so it might be a little bit harder to compare, but I think you can tell that the Hero 9 with the horizon leveling on is just a little bit smoother than the Hero 8 with the Hypersmooth. Now, I could have used the boost on the Hero 8 to make it just a little bit smoother maybe, but I wanted to compare it to the way that I normally make my videos, which is just the Hypersmooth on the Hero 8 with the gimbal. So you can now always film with your horizon leveling on. I guess you have to weigh your options there, because you can only film in linear and not in wide. I'm used to filming in wide because it gives you a larger field of view. Looking at the footage now though, I think filming in linear is actually not that bad. The only thing is that when I'm filming myself, I'm really close to the camera. Another thing that I think the horizon leveling can help me with though is that I've noticed the last couple of runs, especially the last 2 races that I did, the gimbal has a hard time of leveling out the camera sometimes, and it's just a little bit slanted, and I try to fix it. There's a little button here that fixes the horizontal of the gimbal, like that. And but it's just a hassle having to do that while you're running, and I'm not always paying attention to it because I'm just holding it and running. So the horizon leveling does a perfect job there of even fixing that, even when your gimbal is keeping your camera slanted a little bit. So to combine that with the gimbal would be a perfect match. So the horizon leveling on the Hero 9 is not as much of a gimbal killer for me. It's more of a gimbal companion. So I think that is my final verdict. If you're walking around, if you're filming your surroundings, if you're going on vacation, bring the Hero 9, put it on a grip, and turn on the horizon leveling. It is a gimbal killer. You don't need the gimbal for that. Even if you're running, then you don't really need the gimbal. The horizon leveling does a really great job, and you can actually film with your camera on just a hand grip and not bother with the gimbal. For me, it is a great gimbal companion. I'm gonna keep using it with my gimbal because not only does it make a good combination, it is just also easier to handle. I don't have to worry about where I'm pointing the camera while I'm running, especially for my long races. I don't want to constantly think of where I'm pointing the camera. And the way I use it, it's always filming. It's always on the entire race. If I'm running a marathon, it's on for 4 hours. So when I'm holding the gimbal, it's always pointing the right direction. If something happens on the course, I'll capture it. If I'm holding it on the grip or the Gorilla Pod, then I have to think about where I'm pointing it. While I'm running, it might be pointing down. I might miss things. With the gimbal, I'm just more likely to capture everything that I want. So for me, in that way, it's a great combination to have it this way and to film with the gimbal. Plus, I'm used to carrying the gimbal anyways, so it's not that big of a deal to have to carry the gimbal with me. All right, I hope you enjoyed all this information, enjoyed all the testing that I've done. If you want me to test anything else for the Hero 9, let me know down below in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe down below. Now until next time, get out there and run.